Hello to all Earth citizens and welcome to my Conscious Coaching podcast. This is Dr. Kianush, founder and creative director of MCCG. My Conscious Coaching Group is a non-political, non-religious 501c3 coaching nonprofit with initiatives in healthcare, leadership, and education with focus on emotional and spiritual intelligence. Our vision is to raise self and global awareness for a conscious mind through education and application of EQ and SQ, and our mission is to connect, collaborate, and partner with hospitals, academics, colleges, and medical schools and organizations to embrace growth, self-healing, and self-coaching to achieve well-being and peak performance of individuals and the team as a one connected whole. We are honored and excited today to have Dr. Steve Motew, Executive Vice President and Chief of Clinical Enterprise at Inova Health System with us. He is responsible for all clinical service operations and optimal outcomes for patients at Inova Health System by focusing on transformational changes and physician leadership development. Dr. Motew is a vascular surgeon with over 20 years experience in healthcare industry. He earned a Bachelor of Art in Anthropology from Emory University, his MD from University of Illinois in Chicago, and also completed a Vascular Surgery Fellowship and Master of Healthcare Administration from University of North Carolina. He also served as a Lieutenant Commander with the U.S. Navy Reserves as a medical officer. I'm personally grateful to Dr. Motew as one of Inova thought leaders who continuously contributed intellectually to our coaching nonprofit initiatives in healthcare education and leadership by participating in our Leading with Humanity white paper project at the Institute of Coaching and also with MCCG webinar with Dr. Carol Kaufman from IOC during pandemic for Inova healthcare professionals and leaders. Dr. Motew, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Kianush. We've established a great relationship. I'm very happy to be here, and we know each other well enough. Please call me Steve.
Yes, thank you so much, and I will. So, Dr. Motew or Steve, let us know what do you like to share with the world about yourself personally and from your leadership journey.
Well, that could be quite a long answer. So let me really focus on a couple of things. You started by asking me, a little bit about myself. I believe that everyone's leadership journey starts early in their lives, whether you're aware of it or not. And so I think about experiences that I had, even at a young age before high school and so forth. And there's it takes a while, I think, in our lives to reflect back on those. The one that comes to mind particularly is that I've been inspired to be a doctor and to be involved in healthcare by watching my father, who was an OBGYN. And it was the joy that he was able to bring to his patients when we were walking down the street of our town outside of Chicago, and really inspired me. And I think that approach to leadership through compassion and through a higher purpose, which to me was and remains so, to take care of people in a compassionate way to improve their lives, has resonated as we think about really being leaders from a personal perspective, being driven by a personal journey. Now, more specifically to that, I frequently will get the question, well, you went through all of this training as a physician, 4 years of medical school, 5 years of general surgery residency with 2 years of NIH research in between there, and then 2 years of fellowship. So 13 years after college, wow, as you are very familiar with. And you put all this effort in to be a specialist, to be a vascular surgeon. And now you seem to wear a suit more and be a leader. How does that happen? And I think about that a lot. And to me, it was a gradual process. I think and have experienced that many of us in the health field, physicians and advanced practitioners and nurses, certainly acquire some of the very basic and important skills of leadership throughout our everyday training. So as a surgeon in the operating room, thinking about working together in a team and elevating the aptitudes of everybody around you, I think about having to be a leader of a team. So when you're working in a clinic and there's decisions that have to be made, frequently you'll have to, I've had to be the one to assimilate information and then really lead a decision to be made. And so when you really think about and then humility and compassion, which to be successful, I believe, as a caregiver, are critical for success. Mm-hmm. And if you stop and pause and think about what are the leadership competencies that I think about leading to success, those are a bunch of them: leading teams, making hard decisions, assimilating information, which requires humility, and addressing your decisions and your work with compassion. So if we could define a bunch of leader competencies, that's it. And so with that in mind, for me, it was really being inspired to be able to allow others and facilitate others to do what I really love to do, which is all the things that I've just talked about. And there are really a couple other key points. One was, early in my career, I engaged in a lot of count me in and volunteership. So based on interest, I went out of my way. And yes, it was extra work to put myself in situations so I could learn and observe other leaders. And the second, which was probably one of the most critical, was identifying and falling into having a mentor or two. So there are two particular individuals that mentored me in different ways, and in a way really provided coaching into the leadership competencies and developed me. And one of those made the suggestion that I should go back to school. So I went back, like I didn't have enough at that point, and got my MHA, as you noted, Chapel Hill. And, I would say it wasn't as much the actual finance and marketing and spreadsheet skills. Those are exciting for me and important. It was really the management and leadership development. And through all of that, eventually, as you know, it's given opportunities to land where I am now. So that's about as short as I can make what's been really a lifelong journey.
Thank you. Yeah. And you really touched on the very important key points, for the leadership, that is a journey, and it comes with being inspired and to inspired. And also the fact that it is a learning journey, and the learning in it doesn't never stop. So I'm talking about the leadership. And to me, I always have been thinking that the leadership and management are the same thing. But do you think that there is any difference between being a leader or a good manager? And if it is, what's the difference in general, or especially in healthcare?
Yeah. So I think about it a couple of ways. If we break it down sort of into the academic analysis of what the words and what we think about when we talk about leadership and management is a particular skill set or focus area that has to do with allowing and guiding individuals and or processes to happen in a way to affect a specific outcome, and pull the pieces together. And those are usually focused on specific business units or areas. But certainly, to me, the key take home on the concept of management is that ultimately you're managing other individuals. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that all managers really need to be good leaders. Leadership is a broader set of capabilities, to me, that fit into potentially many areas of, in this example, a healthcare organization. And so some of the differences that I think about is leadership is really an internal set of characteristics and goals that can allow you to be successful, whether you're a manager or you're not. Mm-hmm. So one example of that would be, think about the physician who their job, their day-to-day job is as a GI doctor, and their job, and they love what they do, and they're competent. And she's seeing patients every day and performing endoscopies. Although there are components of management in that job, I wouldn't necessarily consider that to be, a classic management position. With that being said, that individual must lead to be successful. And then on the corollary to that is, I think that when we think about defined leaders in our industry, that must encompass not only the leadership characteristics, because usually now you have a much broader influence and you cannot possibly manage to all levels of details. Yet you must rely heavily on the leadership, the development and maturation of your leadership capabilities. And from a day-to-day job, for example, in my job, I do a lot of management. Mm-hmm. However, I also do a lot of individual and personal development, strategic thinking. There's an operational component. There's a finance component. But most, I think, of defined leaders, particularly when we're talking about at an executive level, really is mostly a combination of both strategic and general oversight of other leaders.
I understand. So if I can recap it, the leadership is most evolved level of the management. And we have heard a lot about the different kind and style and type of the leadership. But what is the strategic leadership means to you? And if there is any successful, ingredient to that, that you have to share?
So strategic leadership. I think about the holistic approach to strategy, particularly at an executive level, is that first and foremost have to be an expert in the environment in which you're working in. And so the development of strategy, which is the direction that takes the organization towards its goals, so its vision, in light of the mission that the company has. So the strategy is, what are the ways that you accomplish your mission and vision? And you do that through your values. Mm-hmm. So first, as I mentioned before, I think having an understanding of a broad understanding of the general environment in which you are working. And there's two components to that, right? One is the external environment. So frequently, strategic leadership requires a elevated understanding of what's going on in both your industry, geographically, politically, and has an understanding of general global trends. In this case, we would talk about healthcare, which is extraordinarily complex. The second lens of the environment is internally. So what are the necessary components in order to make the decisions? And some of those are very tactical. So a strategy in order to accomplish your mission or vision needs to understand data. So what do we know about ourselves and others? Needs to understand what are the capacity and finances to support a specific direction. Mm-hmm. Most important from a leadership perspective to me is having an understanding of the culture that is necessary to affect the strategy. So I really believe and think that strategy is the way, the how that you affect your mission. And it can be micro strategy. So what happens in healthcare at the bedside every day? What is your strategy there? Or it could be macro. What is the direction of an entire, multi-billion-dollar health system and the components to achieve your ultimate goals?
Yeah, it's very interesting the way you did the autopsy on the strategic leadership and the key ingredient to it as an awareness or a self-awareness of a leader and how important it is to be understandable, an understanding of every level of the leadership and the management. And can you elaborate a little bit on the Innova's health system strategic and operational focus?
Yes. So we frequently talk to our teams, and to the point that you're really highlighting, the question of, what do we mean when we say strategy? And I think we've learned that if you ask a different person in the organization, that you might get a different answer. Well, strategy is we're going to open a new clinic, or strategy is we're going to buy new monitors. Way that we really define strategy is to try to simplify it to our core business that aligns with our core mission. So we've consolidated that into what we call our care mandate. So what do we think will differentiate Inova to be successful in furthering our goals? So allow us to be successful. We believe that our strategy aligns with providing optimal clinical care as defined by both patients and experts in the most seamless way possible. So our strategy is to be excellent at our core business. Now, we put those into words. So it is to provide a people-centered, high reliability, seamless system of care. That may not be something that, that's not our mission. Our mission is different. It's our, it allows us to achieve our mission and vision, but really that is our strategy. And from there, that is the lens that we look to achieve our ultimate goals. And the way, to your second part of this question, how does this really show up operationally? It's that we focus our resources on doing exactly that. So we do care model development. We invest in people. We change our process to identify the opportunities we have to be more consumer-centric and team-centric. And really one of the key words to us is the seamless part. And in evaluating in discussing a strategy that relates to seamlessness, we want our work to be seamless for our team members to address the terrible epidemic we have now of workload and burnout. And we also must be seamless for our patients and our communities. How do you enter the system in a seamless way? So you don't have to make phone calls. We have an app that, we develop an app as an example to allow you to schedule directly online. So those are the tactics that fall under that broad strategy. It really gives us a lot of leeway, but a lot of clarity.
Yeah, I see from the way that I know, and I see, and from what you are explaining, Inova is a living, growing organism, and with the words that the mission, vision, and the values, and the technology that is growing in it for the optimal efficiency for the patients, with the focus and with the people focus, and this was really, eye-opening as a role model, for all the healthcare system in our region and in the country. And I'm really looking up to it to see how the coaching, practice can be helpful or hurtful in general for organizations or for a healthcare system like Inova.
Yes. Well, thank you for those kind acknowledgement. I think that coaching has a specific role and an essential role. So I have had the benefit throughout my career of both mentors and coaches. And I can probably best speak to my personal journey, which is, first and foremost, there's an opportunity to gain a expert lens as to how I individually can be better as an executive, as a human being, and in taking care of myself. I have a ton of daily coaches, right? My partners, the other executives I work with. Coaching is dynamic. Coaching means instructing and teaching and advancing others in some way. I just can't get out of my mind what it means like to have a sports coach as an example. Mm-hmm. And so that's great. However, it does not lend itself to two things that I think formalized coaching offers. One is a true expert like yourself who has understood, trained, knows the science, knows the humanity behind it, and therefore gives a lens that is truly expert. I'm not saying that my partners and colleagues and friends aren't experts, but most of them haven't gone through an understanding of the components that you and other professional coaches have. So first and foremost, it's that you have a lens that comes from an expert that is not hindered by the day-to-day work. The other is that it provides a very safe space, which really ties to that first component of expertise. And there are practical realities of how particularly executives show up to their teams. And vulnerability, which I think actually is, I try to be very vulnerable in front of my teams. You also want to balance that vulnerability with confidence. And so utilizing and working with an external professional, a coaching professional, allows you to have that vulnerability. And then finally, really, you are not encumbered by telling the truth, which sometimes can be hard. Mm-hmm. The second part of your question is, are there any downsides to coaching? Mm-hmm. And I would say first and foremost, I've look at the opportunities to be coached and or mentored as a gift. It's like somebody offering you a massage, right?
Yeah.
If you get a great massage, you always want a massage. Mm-hmm. If you have great therapy, you always want more therapy. And I really think coaching can accomplish that. I think where there are potential risks, and I do see this happening, is when you substitute coaching for leadership. And what I mean by that is I believe that the most successful leaders, and I think about the individuals on my team, are also in their own ways phenomenal coaches. And I think that some are not. Mm-hmm. And under that realm, I feel the responsibility for helping to guide, mentor, accelerate, and hold accountability. And that I have seen, not infrequently, individuals who will substitute that sort of leader manager role, mm-hmm. Will substitute coaching for that. I think that they can be very tied together, but they're not substitutes for each other. So if there was any risk, it's those that try to really substitute the core component of being a strong leader for individuals and saying, well, I'm not, I don't know how to do that, or I'm not very good at it, or more likely I'm uncomfortable doing that, and substitute that for coaching. And what happens then is the coaching generally is successful in itself, but the development of the individual within their role may not be.
I see. I understand. That was a really crucial point that you brought up, and I appreciate that the leaders can wear the coaching hat with or without, with or without it. So there are times then that there can be only the leadership, and there are times that they can be the leader and the coach at the same time. And there are different, specific criteria based on what's happening at the work is needed for that. And I appreciate also your comment about, me as an expert. So just that was very nice of you. Just that we all are in growing journey, including me. And I'm learning from you right now, more than, any other time than my coaching practice. And that's what it is in the coaching journey. While we are coaching, we learn from the people that we are in a relationship with. At the end, what is your advice for our listeners, especially the current and future physicians and nurse leaders, that when and why and how they can choose a coach that is appropriate for themselves or for their team members?
My advice is, and what I also think will enhance the successful partnership with the right coaching, is to be humble and clear in your own mind of what it is that you would like to achieve. And there's a whole menu, I think, that can be created with a coaching and relationship. So are you looking to improve your executive presence? Are you looking to balance your own life? I know that you do a lot of focus on mindfulness and self-exploration, which by the way. I'm very biased that I think that is generally where I've seen the best personal experience from coaching. Are you trying to receive to help solve a problem? Have you received feedback? And so, in choosing a coach and understanding how an individual would benefit the most from that, is to have some clarity as to what it is you want to achieve. And to that same end, and you certainly experience this and might have a different opinion on this, but I think that if you go into coaching just because someone else is making you do that, you're less likely to be successful unless you have an understanding and a desire to achieve an outcome from that coaching engagement. It's very personal, as it should be. And so if you can't tie it personally, it may hinder your abilities to be successful. So that would be my advice.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Dr. Motew, for your pearls of wisdoms, and sharing your experience and knowledge of leadership with our network, especially the touching story about your father, that being your role model, and how important it is that all, our inspiration starts from our childhood, and you becoming your role models also for your children and for many people around you. As always, we are grateful for your care and contributions in order to help us to make a difference in any possible ways. And ahead of time, happy Father's Day weekends to you as well, and to your father.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. And Kianush, thank you for everything you're doing.
We appreciate your presence and your contribution again. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye to our listeners, and remember, one podcast at a time. Thank you for being with us for another one. You can visit our website at myconscious.org to learn more about us, or write to us at coach@myconscious.org. And please stay connected by following us on our social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, not to miss our upcoming episodes and events. Love and light from all of us to you. Make it a great day, everyone.